Hi guys, Josh here. So today I'd like to make a video, kind of a follow-up video to Andy Klemenko's Coder. Coder is an amazing CDE, which is the cloud development environment. Andy showed in his video was an installation of Coder to an RKE2 Harvester HCI cluster, which is super cool. But one thing I just was when you pop up that deployment for Coder, it does not have Docker in those containers, similar to what GitHub Codespaces offers with Docker. And for a development environment, Docker is clutch. Like I need to be able to quickly iterate and test and build things, but I don't want to be reliant on GitHub Codespaces and the time limit limitation. So this allows me to spin up, a very small Kubernetes cluster, right, that is able to deploy Kubernetes or Coder workspaces that's right with Docker embedded into each and every single one of those workspaces. All right. The installation is not as straightforward as one might think, at least in terms of the initial installation. Coder recommends that you install Sysbox, which is container runtime, and we'll get into all that, and there'll be more in the show notes. So let's go ahead and just get into it. Basically, Coder recommends that you do one of these four things, right? Either do a Sysbox runtime container on a cluster that they've set in the compatible node types. They offer solutions for GKE, EKS, AKS, Docker, as well as RKE2. I don't believe K3S is supported, but the caveat being that you have to install on a specific OS version for specifically for RKE2, you need to use the Ubuntu Focal runtime with a kernel version that they recommend between 5.4 and 5.15. Okay, when I initially did the Sysbox installation, it did not work. I tried on Ubuntu, I tried on Bionic, and I tried on Jammy. Okay, I also reached out to Andy Klemenko. Klemenko commented that he couldn't get it to install on Bionic. It messed up his harvester, did a whole bunch of things that were not ideal. Okay, so instead of running that way, I was like, well, I bet you Coder has some type of solution, and they do. It's with Envbox, right? And they offer a pre-built container image that has the Sysbox runtime RIO pre-built and installed on it. So that's what we're going to take a look at today and go ahead and get that installed. Yeah, so at least in terms of the templating site, it is right here. That will also be in the show notes. The template right here. The only thing that they recommend that you do when you get into this Terraform is when you're putting in the image, they tell you not to pin the latest tag on it and pin to like a running version of Envbox that works for you. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Okay. So let's go ahead and get that moving. I think I already have that going. So the first step in all this is you need a cluster to install Coder onto. Okay. Basically, I'm going to utilize RKE2 on a harvester install with Ubuntu Focal, RKE2 version 1.3, and a few other things. Let's just go ahead and look at what I have built here. Yeah. So basically, we're going to have RKE2 1.3, 0.6, which is the latest version that Rancher supports. I say they do. We're going to go with Flannel for the CNI versus Calico. I found that Calico, the installation, and it's a little bit more complex than we want right now. If you can get that installed on Calico, let me know. We're going to ensure that after we provision the nodes, that we reboot, and then we have to ensure that libseccomp at least 2.50 is installed onto each and every single one of those nodes. They also recommend that you have at least 4 CPU and 4 gigabytes of memory. I'm going to give them each 100 gigabytes of bootable memory as well. I'm going to go with 8 and 24 just to be sure, just to kind of make it a giga-chad. But both of your nodes need to be set up like that. Then we're going to install Coder, and then we're going to run that template that I just showed you to have a Coder workspace with Docker and Docker. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. I believe I already have the Terraform ready to go for the install. Boom, that's right there. Let's go ahead and grab a gist from Klemenko. So let's just go to, we'll type in Klemenko gists, and this will all be in the show notes as well. But we're just going to kind of like raw dog it and put it into a thing and install. All right, so should be his gist site. Yeah. And we're going to need this one right here, Coder Basic Install. So we're going to go ahead and Coder Install. And here's his show notes right here. We're just going to grab this, and we're going to throw this into, just a simple text editor right here. Let me bring this over. Okay, and we're going to change one thing on this. We're going to change the IP. Okay, I have MetaLB installed on the cluster that you're about to see, so we're going to change it to the first available one in my IP pool, but it's going to obviously differ for you. And we're just going to change both of those over. This will create like a DNS entry for us and be good to go. So we're just going to grab all this. We're going to need to create the namespace. Oh, no, we don't, because he's already got to create namespace in there. So we should be good. So we're just going to grab that. We're going to bring this over to our harvester cluster, which should be right here. There it is. All right, we've already got that kernel ready to go, 1.3.0.6 with RKE2, R1. Okay, this cluster is running Flannel. Let's look at the config. Yep, we're running Flannel. Okay, so let's get into it. So let's go into our cluster. In and of itself, we're going to open up a shell. Okay. We're just going to grab Clemenco's gist and paste it right into there. Let it do its thing. You can install a Bitnami PostgreSQL database as well as Coder and let it cook. There it is. So now if we jump into Rancher, right, and we check out our workloads and we switch to the Coder workspace, notice this thing's popping and dropping. All right. As soon as that's good to go, we will pop open that space and get it moving. So quick pause. Okay. All right. Coder is now installed. We're going to go check out our service discovery, make sure our load balancer is set up properly. Okay, awesome. So if that is the case, if we pop over to coder.192.slip.io, we should be greeted by the Coder friendly user interface. All right. So we're going to go in. We're going to put in some details. Set your password. We're going to create the account. Now, first things first, we need to create a template to get this, kind of up and moving. All right. So we're going to go create a template. We're going to go from scratch. They have not added this into the starter templates, which I believe they will, but it has not made it into the most recent release. So we're just going to give this a human-friendly name, or we're going to give it a name. We'll just do Kubernetes Envbox, and we'll copy the same thing over for simplicity's sake. We're going to give it a dope emoji. Go with K8s, obviously. Boom. So that's good. Let's create this template. All right. So we're going to have a base template, and then we're going to go ahead and grab that Terraform that I just mentioned right here. We're going to grab it, and we're going to come back over. Let's bring this down and come back over. All righty. All right. So we're in here. We're going to edit this. We're just going to delete all of that. We're going to replace it with what we just copied over. And then we're going to go down to the image. And we're going to replace the latest with the latest working version. So it's 0.6.1. If we look at the releases, this is the latest on the release tags. Okay, it changed 2 weeks ago, so it's pretty recent. All right, so let's go back over to here. We've pinned the latest version. That's not quite right. We need a 0.0 right there. 0.6.1. Okay, we should be good. Let's hit build. All right, it's going to ask us some basic questions. We're going to hit false for this for the kubeconfig question. Then we're going to go and we put this in the coder namespace. We're going to set these tune devices and fuse devices as to false for simplicity, but you can add them if you so chose. I'm not exactly sure what they do. I think one of them's for a file like SHHFS file system. I'm not totally sure. All right, it's going to ask you max number of CPUs. We're going to go with 4. Minimum's going to be, actually minimums we're going to go 4 as well. And we're going to do maximum amount of CPU or memory. We're going to go 4 minimum. We're going to go 4 again. All right, let's go ahead and submit that. And that should build that space for us. We're going to break out Rancher. Close that. Come back over here. All right, that space has been done. So we're going to now publish that to the most active version. All right, now we're going to create a workspace right off gate. All right, we're going to call this test coder Docker and Docker. We're going to give it, I don't know, 15 bootable disk. We're going to create the workspace. And what we'll notice is if we come over here and we'll see in the workloads, this container spinning up right here. There it is, test Docker and Docker. Going to let it create. As soon as that pops off and creates, we'll have the workspace pretty much ready to go. So let's let that kind of cook for a minute. Excuse me. All right, containers up. Building the workspace. Pulling Sysbox process startup, getting Docker D to start up, pulling the CoderCom enterprise base, workspace. It goes relatively quick, actually, comparable to other images for dev containers. All right, looks like we're good to go. Let that spin up. It's currently, yep. And this is where it would fail before if you did not update the kernel version. It would fail and say it can't find libseccomp. All right, so let's just check the terminal. All right. Looks like that space is good to go. LS, okay. Now, for the piece de resistance, we're going to wait till we get into the code server. So we're going to run into the code server, maximize that thing. Okay. It's not secure, so it's not going to let me copy paste stuff. All right. So let's just see if we got it. All right. Docker ps-a. Okay, looks like we've got Docker. Looks like we've got Docker sudo privileges. All right, let's run this. Let's do just a hello world. Should try to find it and pull it. Yep. Okay. All right. All right. Let's just go ahead and get the Docker extension just so we can visualize this a little bit better. There it is. We're going to install that Docker extension. Go look at it. Okay. Looks like we pulled the image. Cool. Latest. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So let's go a little bit more advanced. Let's actually deploy a workload that, it's kind of fun. I've got one ready to go. All right. And for the purposes of this demo, we're going to use my buddy Andy Klemenko's Rancher app that shows you the latest versions of Rancher, Harvester, Longhorn, all that jazz. And we're going to deploy MinIO, which is an S3 object store. And we're going to deploy a sidecar container with MC latest to provision an S3 bucket within MinIO itself called My Content Engine. Okay, so let's just go ahead and run this thing. Now I'm going to show you the reason why I did both of these apps. For some reason, some applications like MinIO and Rancher itself, like if you wanted to deploy Rancher on Docker, they won't render in this browser, which is kind of unfortunate. Andy's app works perfectly fine. We're just going to kind of go ahead and go there, see if it renders. Give it a second to kind of load. Yep, worked great. Go check the logs of the workspace. Looks like we've got MinIO up and running. Bring that down. See the logs of MinIO, see if it's running. It says it is, but what you'll notice will happen is if you're, and I think it's just the way that, the proxy works, it just doesn't render the files that it needs to, but it is running and working, and I will show you that it is momentarily. So we've already demonstrated Klemenko's app. Let's now close this workspace, right, and pop this thing into VS Code. Quick pause while I get this running. OBS kind of throws off opening VS Code and downloading that extension. So I'll be right back after I click this. So I'm going to go ahead and click it and click pause. Okay, it opened in VS Code. We're good to go. Let's go ahead and check those services that we got running. I don't think I have Docker in here, so we'll just do it just in case. But we're going to forward report regardless, just to see that MinIO running. Oops. Boom. MinIO running on a Docker container inside a Kubernetes pod, right, from Coder Workspaces. Docker and Docker. All right. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. That will be that along with the show notes. So enjoy. Hopefully this helps you out. Thanks. Bye.